So how do you find foreclosure overages? Well, today I'm going to show you, and I'm also going to tell you the good news. It's really relatively simple thing to do. So foreclosure overages are monies left over when a property is sold at an auction, either because they didn't pay their taxes or they didn't pay their mortgage. And when there's money left over, those are called overages. You probably know that much because you're in this video. So today I'll share with you how to actually find these lists. So let's start with the tax foreclosure overages, which are the easiest ones to find. They're far easier than mortgage foreclosures. I'll talk about mortgage foreclosures in a bit, but right now let's talk about tax foreclosures. So in tax foreclosures, for most states, this is not everyone, but for most states, you just contact whoever held the foreclosure, whether it is the county sheriff, the county tax commissioner, a tax deed office, or a tax claims office. It varies by state, but once you figure out what office does it in that state, it'll be pretty much consistent among all the counties. The person who held the auction has a list, because their list is how much did the property sell for. They also have on there what is the starting bid, which is the amount of taxes that were owed. And essentially the overages is the differential between what the starting bid was versus what it sold for. There are going to be some small adjustments from that, but not worth talking about today. Some of the lists just flat out put the overage on it, meaning how much money is left over. And I'll get the editor just to pop some lists up there so you can see it and see an example. It just shows you how much money is left over. That is the overage, and that's the money that the former owner is eligible to claim. Now, they won't always get the money. There are lots of distinctions, but that's far beyond where we're going to go in today's video. If you're interested in that, I offer education where we go in depth in this business. But what I will tell you for now is that you can rely on that number being the correct number. The people at the county that calculate it just deduct the taxes that have to be paid and other costs, and then that excess funds or overages number that's shown. And by the way, excess funds, overages, overbids, all names for the same thing, just means money left over after that foreclosure auction. So you get that list, and that's your list. I know it may seem almost too easy. That is your list. Now you will find some distinctions, like some lists will have a number instead of the property address. That's just the tax identification number. All you have to do with that is to put that tax ID number into the tax assessor or tax collector's database, which is typically available online, and it's going to give you the address of that property. So that's not a big deal. But basically, these searches for tax overages are done online. An easy way to test it is do a Google search. Put in there like DeKalb County, Georgia, excess funds is an example. And the model is the county name, the state, and then the word excess funds will generally find the list for you every time. What will happen is you'll see results that will typically take you to the department that did the foreclosing, and there they'll typically have a list available right online showing the excess funds that they have on hand and available. And you can also count on the fact that they keep those lists up to date. If they say the money is there, it's there. If you want to satisfy yourself with that, feel free to call them and ask them, and they'll just tell you, usually in a kind of exasperated voice, if it's on the list, we have the money, because they don't want to answer questions like that they have it on their list. So anyway, they won't bite you, so just call them if it satisfies you. But use that model. Such and such county, state, overages list, or excess funds list. Any of them will work. Google's pretty smart. Try it now, as a matter of fact. Try DeKalb County, Georgia, excess funds list. Matter of fact, I'll put it up on the screen so you can see it. That's what shows up. Really simple. Now, there are things you have to do from there that are beyond the scope of this video, like getting contact information from people, reaching out to them, convincing them it's a real opportunity, and signing them up. But just to start with, for the purpose of this video, that's how you get the list. Now, there are some places where they don't put the list online. An example of that is Kansas. It's not really online. That's because they're just more secretive. They have different public records laws. The only two places where it's really, I would say, difficult, New York State is a little difficult because they're new. They just started giving back overages, so they haven't really worked out their systems yet. Kansas, South Carolina to a degree. The rest of it's pretty easy. Just do a search and you'll start finding these lists of overages. As I said, there's lots more to know after that, but that's how you start with the overages list. The other way that you can do this, and we're going to bridge into mortgage foreclosures in this, the other way you can do this is if you're going to the sales, like if you're a man or a woman who is investing or buying properties or even just going to watch foreclosure auctions, then you're going to see overages being created. And you can have a pretty rough estimate of how much money is available just by going to the, say, tax sale. You'll see the opening bid, which is generally the amount of taxes that are owed. And then you can see what someone paid for it, so you can write that down. And the mathematical difference between the two is your overage. Now that number is going to come down some when you go to actually claim the money, because there'll be some costs of auction, a couple of percent usually, and some other costs, and maybe they owed some money to the government, like for grass cutting fines and all. So the number can come down, but it's going to give you a pretty good rough idea of what money is available, and that's a great way to get a list. Very simple, and that's the way you get a list in a place where they don't publish lists, really, like Kansas. That's the way you would do that. Same thing with South Carolina. That's the way you do that. Same thing with New York State. Much easier to do it that way. That's also, as I promised you, I'd bridge into mortgage foreclosures. That's also the way to get mortgage foreclosure lists, because one of the big differences between mortgage foreclosure overages and tax foreclosure overages is mortgage foreclosure overages, it's not one entity foreclosing in one sale. Instead, it's like, oh, it's Bank of America foreclosing, it's Wells Fargo foreclosing, it's Rocket Mortgage foreclosing. It's all these different lawsuits that are happening, and then a foreclosure. It's not all just one like taxing authority foreclosing and holding one sale, because when it's one sale with one taxing authority, then it's one list. So when you're doing mortgage foreclosure overages, it is by far the easiest way to do it is either yourself or send someone down to the sale to just write down what the place is sold for. You'll have an opening bid. That's not a guarantee that's the amount owed, but probably a good guideline. And just look for ones where there's a big honking difference between the two, where the house sold for $400,000 at the foreclosure auction, but the mortgage was showing, or the debt was showing at $200,000. There's going to be a sizable overage in that, and that's the ones you want to follow. I think for mortgage overages, that's the easiest way I've found to get leads quickly, is just send someone to the sale. And so typically we'll just send someone, pay them a couple bucks to attend the sale, and all they've got to do is write down what each property sold for. That's all I need them to do. They give us that information. We process it by essentially comparing the amount of the debt that's advertised versus the amount that's sold for. When we say big overage, that's when we go into action. So that's how you get the list. Every state does not offer overages. Most states either offer tax and mortgage, or just tax or just mortgage, but that's research, again, beyond where we're going to get into in this video. But if you really want to get into the business, get yourself some education and learn which places offer mortgage overages, which offer tax overages, what the rules are. The rules you need to pay attention to especially are how long do I have to get the money? Because it varies greatly. I would say typically it's 3 years after the sale that you get the money within 3 years, or it's forfeited to the government, but it does vary greatly. The shortest state, at least for tax overages, is Alaska. You got 6 months to put a claim in for that money, otherwise it's lost. Longest is Delaware, where it's forever. You can always get the money. Most of them are in between. I would say typically I expect it to be about 3 years, but you do need to know when you're actually going to go into the business. You do need to do that research, or you need to get a course like we sell. I don't mean to sound self-serving here, but I know what's in our course. We give you all the research in all 50 states, tell you where you can do it, what the time limits are, who has the lists and all that. Whatever you do, make sure you do your research thoroughly. And things you need to do this business, you need to know how to get lists. You need to know how to get the contact information for the people that are owed the money. We teach that in our course. You need to know what to say to them, because the challenge in this business is not really getting the list. It's not submitting the claims. It's convincing people this is a real opportunity. Because a lot of people have a tough time believing that they, who lost their house to a foreclosure, could possibly have the good fortune to be owed tens of thousands or even hundreds of thousands of dollars. So our job as overages entrepreneurs is to convince people that really is true and help them out. So that's sort of the trick. So in our course, we just give people a call script and the background, the training to help understand how are these people thinking and how do we get through to them to let them know this is a real opportunity and you need to take advantage of it, because otherwise you're going to lose your money. So let's take advantage of it. And then, of course, submitting the claim. That I don't find too difficult, but I'm an attorney, so maybe I think it's easier than other people. The sort of tricky ones are ones where there are estates, or it's an LLC or a corporation. You have to learn how to deal with those. But again, this stuff isn't hard. It's something I can show you in an hour or two, and then you can go and do it. That's why we train people in this. But to get the lists, which was your first question here, just start out with a simple search. The model is county name, state name, and excess funds, or you can put in overages. Both will work. So try like DeKalb County, Georgia excess funds list, and you'll see it. And it's pretty easy, and that is the start of your business. What I will tell you, in case this is your question, there's a huge opportunity in this business. There are thousands and thousands of properties sold at foreclosure auctions every day. There are millions of dollars in excess funds generated every day. And there are relatively few people pursuing this business. So basically, most of the money goes unclaimed. Matter of fact, the state of Maryland which does a statewide compilation of figures, does a report every year. And if you look up that report, what you're going to find is that in a normal year, 28% of the money gets claimed and 72% of the money never gets claimed and just forfeits to the government. So the state of Maryland, like other states, is profiting handsomely from this, taking in millions and millions of dollars that they just get to keep because people are not claiming the money. And that means that if you're an entrepreneur looking for a business, this is a great place to look because you help people get back money they never knew about. And you can make great money for yourself by getting a fee for that help. So really good business. If you want to know more about the business, I recorded a probably 10, 11-minute video on intro to the overages business, which you can see the link up above if your browser supports that. If it doesn't, just look down below. There's a link there. Click on it. I'll tell you about the overages business. It may be the one for you. I can also tell you we train you in every aspect of the business. Not in that video, but in our extended trainings. We offer a whole course where it tells you all the details and everything, like how to get the list, what states you can do this in, what the time limits are, how the people think, how to get through to the people to get them to sign up with you, and how to push those claims through. I think it's the most wonderful business in the world because I get to help people who've lost so much. They lost their house. They lost a roof over their heads. It's awful. Help them get back money to help them get restarted and to get back into the game of life and make great money for myself and my family. I don't know what could be better than that. So if that sounds interesting to you, definitely click on the link, check out the overages video, and I'll see you over there. So this is Bob Diamond. Hopefully this is helpful. Hopefully you can go and get your first list now, and hopefully I'll see you on overages training.